All right, let's get right into it. Today we're talking about something called thinking traps. It's this super powerful idea that helps explain why things just go wrong sometimes. We're going to look at why even our best intentions seem to crash and burn, and how we can start to see these invisible forces that are really running the show.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation like this? You're looking at some persistent problem, I don't know, at work, in your town, maybe even in your own family, and you see all these smart, good people trying so hard to fix it, but nothing changes. It's just so frustrating, right? I think we've all been there.
Well, what if we're looking for answers in all the wrong places? What if the problem isn't the people or even the specific things they're trying to do? What if the problem is baked right into the system itself? That's the huge idea we're digging into. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about seeing the trap for what it is.
Okay, so let's get a proper definition. The legendary systems thinker Donella Meadows, she called these things system traps, or archetypes. Basically, they're these common repeating patterns in a system that almost always lead to bad outcomes. You can almost think of them like, blueprints for failure that just show up again and again in different situations.
And here's the cool part. Once you learn to see these traps, you start seeing them everywhere. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down 3 of the most common ones. And I promise you, you've almost certainly been caught in every single one of these at some point.
All right, first up, trap number 1, the escalation spiral. This one is a total classic. Once you know it, you can't unsee it. It's basically the "I'll see your bet and raise you" trap.
And this quote from Meadows just nails it, right? You hit me, so I hit you back a little harder. It perfectly captures that dynamic. It's what we call a reinforcing loop. Every action is just a reaction to the last one. Trying to get a tiny bit ahead, but all it does is make the other side hit back even harder. And before you know it, the whole thing just spirals completely out of control.
So here's how it works. You've got 2 or more people, or companies or whatever, and they're just locked in this race to one-up each other. And it just builds and builds until the whole system could collapse. Now, the really important thing to get here is that the way out is not to push harder. That just makes it worse. You have to break the cycle. Either one side has to be brave enough to just stop and hope the other side follows, or everyone has to get together and actually negotiate a whole new set of rules to calm things down.
And believe me, this pattern is everywhere. It's the big stuff, like political arms races or companies getting into brutal price wars. But it's also the small stuff. It's literally why a cocktail party gets louder and louder. You talk a bit louder to be heard, so the person next to you does too, and on and on. It's why a tiny argument between family members can blow up into a huge fight. The structure, the pattern, is exactly the same.
Okay, on to our second trap. This one also deals with unintended consequences, but it's all about what happens when we have to share stuff. It's called the tragedy of the commons. This idea was famously described by the ecologist Garrett Hardin, and the logic is, well, it's brutally simple. Imagine there's a pasture, a commons, that's open to everyone. Every single person has a personal incentive to add as many of their own cows as possible, right? Because the benefit of adding one more cow is 100% yours. But the cost, the overgrazing, the damage to the pasture, that gets shared by everybody. See the problem?
So the key problem, the absolute core of this trap, is a missing feedback loop. Nobody using the resource feels the direct pain of it being depleted, not until it's way too late. The system breaks because everyone acting rationally in their own self-interest adds up to a total disaster for the group. So the solutions? They're all about putting that feedback loop back in. You can educate people, create some social pressure, you can regulate it, put rules or limits on it, or sometimes you can privatize the resource, so each person feels the direct consequences of how they use their own little piece. And man, this trap explains some of our biggest global problems. Think about overfishing the oceans. That's a classic tragedy of the commons. The atmosphere as a place to dump CO2, that's a commons. And hey, even your email inbox is a kind of digital commons. It gets totally clogged up by spammers because each spammer gets a tiny benefit, while the cost of a ruined inbox is shared by all of us.
Okay, our third and final trap for today. And this one might be the most dangerous of all, because it's so sneaky and quiet. Donella Meadows called it drift to low performance. I like to call it the slow decline.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Well, that's about all you can expect. It's that feeling of resignation. This is the classic boiled frog syndrome. The performance of a system gets worse, but it happens so slowly, so gradually, that our standards just drop right along with it. We just get used to things being a little bit worse year after year.
So what's happening here is that our perception of what's normal is what's driving the whole system. The trap is a reinforcing loop where past performance, especially bad past performance, sets the new standard. Things get a little worse, so we lower our expectations, which then allows things to get even worse. It's a slow downward spiral. The only way out is real discipline. You have to tie your standards to something absolute, something that doesn't change. Or even better, you make the best examples your standard, not the worst or the average.
And again, you see this everywhere once you look. It's why we slowly accept that our phones or appliances just don't last as long anymore. It's how public services can get worse and worse without anyone really noticing until it's a crisis. And it can even happen to us on a personal level, right? Think about how our own fitness goals might slip, just a little bit every single year.
So there you have it. 3 really powerful, really common traps. The escalation spiral, the tragedy of the commons, and the slow decline. And I know, they can feel totally overwhelming, like there's no way out. But the key, and this is so important, the key isn't to just try harder, it's to think differently.
And that shift in thinking really comes down to 3 steps. First, and this is the big one, stop blaming people. Start looking for the structure that's making them act that way. Second, you gotta name the trap. Just being able to look at a situation and say, oh, okay, this is an escalation spiral, that gives you so much power. And finally, number 3, change the rules. Focus your energy on changing the system's goals or its rules or how information flows through it.
And this really is the main takeaway. If you just push harder inside a broken system, you're usually just making the trap worse. The real leverage, the real power, comes when you can step outside of it all and actually change the design of the system.
Which brings me to this final quote from Donella Meadows, and I just love it. She says, "We can't control systems or figure them out, but we can dance with them." This just totally reframes how we should think about all this complex stuff. It's not about being the boss, it's not about perfect control, it's about paying attention, learning the steps, and, well, learning how to dance with the system.
So that's your new mission if you choose to accept it. Start looking for the dance. The next time you find yourself stuck in one of those frustrating, impossible problems, stop looking at the people. Ask yourself, what's the structure here? What's the trap? And then, what are the steps to the dance? Thanks for tuning in.